Avenue, and as part of my family's commitment to the community, I come to you every Wednesday talking to people that matter, about things that matter, in a place that matters, right here in Greenwich. Good morning, our 1490 WGCH listeners, and to our Facebook Live viewers, and always a special thanks to Bob Small and Tim Judge, who bring us to you live every Wednesday. And this morning we are talking about a very important organization right here in Greenwich. And we are hoping by the end of the show, if you haven't already heard of them, you'll get to know them better. And you'll also think about ways to get involved and support, either through your time or through your dollars. Either way, greatly appreciated. But welcome to Gabby Ratner, the Executive Director of CCI Greenwich. And CCI stands for
Community Centers, Inc. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. A bit about you as an executive director, passionate about the cause for nonprofits. You've spent your life working in the nonprofit sector, and there is a special science to that. You have to be tending to the social needs of a community, but you have to also be mindful of the business and budgetary and operational concerns. And a credit to you that you are the first person to lead this organization, not as a social worker, but certainly of a community-minded nature, a propensity for social work, but you have a business hat as well. So tell us a bit about yourself and how you came to CCI.
Well, thank you for saying that. As you noted, I've spent almost my entire career working with nonprofits. I have a passion for the missions of the organizations that I've worked with, and also for serving the community that I live in. So many of them have been local or local affiliates of national organizations. And I have always, as you said, a hallmark of what I do is to bring a business sense to a nonprofit to maximize its ability to serve to fulfill its mission and serve its constituents.
Gabby, in tough economic climates, nonprofits are arguably among the first to suffer. When there's not the surplus of money or income, the first things that get chopped off are, the non-necessities. So your work to raise awareness is probably more difficult now than it was perhaps years past. But also, again, when you're dealing with an organization like CCI in Greenwich, a town that carries such a reputation for affluence and wealth and prosperity, it's often difficult to raise awareness about the other side and what exists beyond what we see. There are two Greenwiches, and both wonderful and both comprise a community as one, but your work is certainly cut out for you. Can you discuss a little bit the awareness that you find presently exists for CCI? If we were to go down Greenwich Avenue, would you find that an overwhelming number of people know who you
housing or in Section 8 housing, and those complexes are full. There are more and more people moving here for a wide variety of reasons. I'm not a demographer, but one could posit a variety of reasons, and they bring with them an incredible need that hasn't gone away. The other thing is, to me, and this goes back to what you were asking me about my business background, there's a huge return on investment to helping people become independent.
Yes.
Whether that's physical independence or financial independence or social and emotional.
Self-sufficient and on their feet, absolutely.
Exactly. And so we talk to funders about how they're not just giving us money to go do our jobs, which of course they are, they make it possible.
But part of that job is helping a person to help themselves.
Exactly.
And again, once people can do that and have the ability to be on their feet, there are socioeconomic benefits that come on a larger scale. You have less people dependent on public assistance, and it's just a wonderful circle that starts with what you're doing.
Exactly, and that's one of the reasons. It's not the only reason, but it's one of the reasons we start in elementary school. If we can help kids successfully navigate school and graduate high school, it's not for us to decide. Some of them will go to college, some of them will go on to careers, some of them will go on to apprenticeships, and other professions, but it's our job to help them realize whatever successful path they envision for themselves.
And the right foundation is key, and that foundation is set earlier and earlier. I find it's amazing what children the preschools today are the kindergartens of 10 and 20 years ago. So everything has shifted back. One of the things I credit about CCI, and we will go into in depth the programs and the variety of things that you're doing, but there's truly an intergenerational focus. You are helping the extreme youth of our community as well as the elderly, and you're recognizing the need for services on each end, and then you cover the in-between. How would you, I know you're relatively new to CCI, however, in your research and your work and your homework, how are the needs today and the needs that you're addressing different than those perhaps of a decade before? Are there increased needs for housing? Are there increased needs for early education? You mentioned earlier that Lori Contadino in the Commission of Aging talks about a huge increase in the senior population that's coming over the next couple of years. What are some of the title changes you know about?
I think it's more, I want to say trends, but that's really the wrong word. So there's several things, starting with seniors, because that's who you mentioned. The whole aging in place movement means that more people will stay here.
Right.
And that means that we as a community have an obligation to help them meet those needs. So Greenwich, for example, is a town that requires transportation. Mm-hmm. You can't walk to most places unless you're fortunate enough to live right downtown. The older you get, the harder it is to drive, the harder it is to get to groceries or doctor's appointments. See, one of the many things CCI does is provides free transportation to seniors who live in public housing to do their grocery shopping and their errands and banking and whatever else they need to do.
Do you have volunteer drivers, Gabby? Do you have buses, shuttles?
We own a fleet. We're fortunate to own a fleet of one bus and some vans.
Wonderful.
And we drive them. I would love to get to a point financially where we could actually have drivers, but at the moment we're doing many things. We wear many hats.
I'm sure.
Then you asked about other trends. One of the things that's come, I think, relatively recently is an awareness that the earlier you start reaching out to children and giving them a common framework of experience, whether it's reading to them or taking them places or even the way they experience cultural things or don't, the more you can level the playing field in early, I'm talking birth to 3.
Right.
The more, by the time they get to that preschool that's now kindergarten, right, the more they're going to be on par with their peers in town, and this is true across the country. So organizations like the United Way, and we are privileged to, one of the things that I've really wanted us to do, and we are doing, and it's amazing, is to collaborate with other organizations that are doing a lot of really great work. So the United Way is really focused on this early 0 to 3 time period, and they're working with Family Centers of Greenwich, mm-hmm, which is also, piloting some programs, and the Y, I believe, is also called the YMCA, to focus on early childhood intervention. Then you have programs in the schools, they call them wraparound services, that provide additional support, not just educational support, but mentoring and cultural experiences and the kinds of things that help level the playing field, again, for kids who may not have those opportunities. And
CCI works very closely with the schools. I want to talk about one of your programs. You really work with the schools. Your summer program helps to bridge the gap from academic year to academic year. And whereas you offer wonderful recreational activities for kids, which is so important that every child has an opportunity to swim, to play in sprinklers, to go outside, to enjoy the summer, you recognize that there are some academic deficiencies that need to be addressed, and you can't just take the summer off. So CCI actually works with schools. You have a way of getting the assessments to see where children are at from reading and math standpoints, and you will incorporate lessons and tutorial and instruction along with the fun summer programs. That's a wonderful program to be able to combine learning and fun together. Can you talk a little bit about your summer program, and if there are any funding or volunteer needs that you have as well in conjunction
Sure,
with that.
thank you. So that is, as you know, one of our signature programs. I think it's been going on at least 30 years and possibly longer. And one of my favorite experiences at CCI so far has been talking to alumni and hearing them say universally, CCI taught me to swim.
Wow.
Which is just incredible. So yes, so we run a 7-week program. It's completely free to children who live in public housing in Greenwich.
Okay.
So we will pick up the children in the morning from the housing complexes. Again, going back to the theme of collaboration this year, as we have in years past, our children will be able to swim at the YMCA, where they'll also be getting boxing lessons and other fitness experiences. And then for the first time, the Boys and Girls Club of Greenwich has offered us their Camp Simmons one day a week so that the kids can swim outdoors and go rock climbing and go fishing and boating and all the other things.
Oh my goodness.
Because one of the things that I'm very sensitive to, having grown up in the city, New York City, sorry, is that kids need to be outdoors in the summer.
Absolutely.
And kids who live in apartments don't have as much of an opportunity to do that. And so I want everybody to be out as much as they can. That said, summer learning loss is a big thing for all children, and it's important to us that we try to address that in every way we can. During the school year, we work in 4 Title I schools. So we work in Julian Curtis, we work in New Leb, we work in Ham Ave, and we work in Dundee, and we run a homework club where we, first of all, help kids get their homework done, but also address any learning issues and behavioral issues that the schools are encountering, that the teachers are encountering during the school day. So we will work with those schools and those kids this summer, knowing where they're starting. And this summer we're doing some different things with reading than we've done in the past, and I'm kind of excited about them.
That's
so,
wonderful.
Yeah.
And I think the child, you know, when they start to feel better about themselves because they recognize a bolstering of their own skills, that they can read, they have a comfort to read in front of others, or they feel that they're not different cognitively from their peers, there are social benefits that are reaped from that. A child is going to be less agitated, therefore less aggressive. So you'll see behavior modifications that come when the learning is kicking in and that light bulb has gone off. So a wonderful value that you're giving back to the community. The effects are so far beyond just the simple learning to read or helping with math skills. There's really rampant benefits that come from that.
Teachers have told me that the simple act of a kid coming into school knowing that their homework is done and that they're caught up is incredibly powerful for them for the next day going forward.
Absolutely. And everything every day builds upon the one before. So wonderful things that you're doing. You also have breakfast clubs that you offer. Is that to make sure that children have a nutritious meal before the day begins?
It is, and it's also so it's really that most of all. It's also so kids whose parents need to leave for work very early can have a safe place for their kids to be, and it's a chance to get last caught up on that homework that you didn't get finished.
Wonderful, very, very good. So we focus now on, so we have the summer program, we have the homework club. You also have drop-in centers, club groups. You mentioned something important. For parents who have to work, obviously everyone wants to be with their children, but if you have to work, you have to work. And the biggest concern are who will care for your children while you're at work. What are your drop-in centers and club groups? Are they, like you say, just safe places where kids can be tended to, but then also be doing something beneficial?
Well, there's certainly that. Drop-in centers are most of the, I think all of the housing complexes have what's called a community room.
Okay.
And so we are basically there, and the kids, it's just that. The kids and their parents are free to drop in, express any concerns they have, ask questions, hang out, play games, whatever.
Just so there's a presence there, and
Exactly.
then again, it raises the awareness that you're there, and everything that you offer.
Exactly, and then we also do programming, which is really exciting. We have some very, very creative people on our staff, and So we have done things like take the kids to Norwalk to a recording studio to make a rap video, or go down to Mac Inspires down on Putnam, West Putnam.
Okay.
He moved.
Yes.
To learn 3D printing and do a
Wonderful.
small project. Or we did etiquette classes. We're doing financial literacy classes for middle school and high school.
That's very important as well.
So we try to do
Life
a lot
skills.
of life, exactly.
Let's transition to some of the programs that you do in working with the seniors in our community. You have a comprehensive senior program that helps the elderly live independently and lead satisfying lives. Quantity of years is a wonderful thing, but only if you have the quality of those years. Age could be wonderful, but it could be a blessing and a curse. So your programs include support groups, counseling, referral to resources, shopping excursions. We talk about aging in place, and that's wonderful. People do that because they want the comfort of their home. But if you can't access the resources in the community, if you can't grocery shop or have healthy foods or have social interaction, it negates the purpose of being in your home. So talk a bit about the needs of the seniors. And as you mentioned, the Commission on Aging study finds that in the next few years, there will be 20% of the Greenwich population will be seniors. That's a significant portion. Again, a credit to the fact that people can remain here. There's not always that big migration down south. But talk a little bit more in depth about these programs, these support groups, the counseling needs.
So, first of all, we work with, as you mentioned, we work with the seniors who live in public housing and in Parsonage Cottage. It's really a three-pronged program, and I think that I may be forcing a little bit more emphasis on the third prong, so I'll start there, because we work with people from early childhood through seniors, and because in some instances those children are the grandchildren of people who came to CCI.
Wow.
I am really trying to encourage some intergenerational programming. So whether it's planting tulip bulbs together during spring break and everybody gets a little pot of flowers, or kids making paper flowers for the senior grandmothers for Mother's Day, or Valentine's Day tea that we do in the senior housing complexes. We're trying to do things that bring people out, bring them together, give them an opportunity to socialize. We certainly also do art therapy. The person who works with our seniors is very skilled in art therapy. We recently did a project where we gave the seniors disposable cameras, and we asked them to go out and photograph the beginning of spring.
Oh, how nice.
And now we're hoping they're going to make little collages out of the pictures that they took, and then we're hoping to invite someone from either the Garden Center or Audubon or one of the nature organizations around town to come and talk about what they took pictures of and tell them what they saw.
That's
so
wonderful.
So we're really focused.
It's a great project.
Thank you. So we're really focused on activities. We do trips. We take them. We're going to the Lobster House next week on City Island. They go to the Christmas tree shop at Christmas time. They go, I'm trying to think of some of the other trips they've taken recently, but the idea again is mobility being a challenge. We don't want people just staying in their apartments or staying in their rooms. We want them to get out. We want them to get out with each other, which helps them know their neighbors, but we also want them to get out in the community. And then, as you say, every week we go shopping. They decide where, it's majority rules. If most people need groceries, then we're going one place. If most people need to get to the drugstore, we might be going another place, or we might try to combine them.
Oh, how wonderful. Is there like a common pickup point, or is it just through
we pick up at the houses. So different days, different complexes.
Okay.
So.
And how many senior housing complexes are there in Greenwich?
There's Agnes Morley. I hope I don't leave one out. There's Agnes Morley, Quarry,
Yes, the three of them.
Yeah.
And again, wonderful places that people can remain in Greenwich and still enjoy the beauty of Greenwich, the services of Greenwich. So a credit to CCI for sure. You do a lot of events to fundraise because with all the good work you are doing, there is a price tag to it. Before I get there, you do a high school program also.
We just are starting one.
Starting one,
And
okay.
we're very excited about it, and thank you. We recognize, and we're not the only ones around town who recognize that we have a lot of participants in elementary school and middle school, and by high school we're running into sort of fall off.
And that's such an important time because, you know, there's a propensity to get into a little trouble there if you're not occupied or being looked after. So a big need in any community for sure. So go ahead.
And early in CCI's history, teen night was a huge thing. Literally, there were hundreds of teens coming to CCI as a place to be.
Okay.
So we have conceived a new high school program working very closely with Greenwich High School. Eventually, we hope to serve all 4 years of high school, but we received some early funding from the Greenwich Education Alliance, and so we're focusing on 10th grade and what we're calling grade 13. And that's because those are the two grades that get the least attention. 9th grade gets a lot of support because they're newcomers.
It's transition.
Exactly. 11th grade because, oh my gosh, we got to figure out whether we're going to college or not. We got to take SATs. We got to do all kinds of stuff. Very stressful. Senior year, well, that speaks for itself.
Yes.
So we are looking at a program. We're starting a program this summer where we will take kids in 10th and grade 13, different goals
And
for
grade
each.
13
Means you've graduated, but you haven't figured out what you're going to be doing. You're
Gotcha.
not going to college, and you don't have a job.
Gotcha. Okay.
So for 10th graders, we're going to be working on helping them figure out what their path is going to be.
Okay.
Staying in school, getting good grades, accessing the resources. Greenwich High School has enormous resources.
Yes, they do.
And yet people don't always take advantage of them, and we're not sure why. So we're going to be, with the parents' permission and the school's permission, which is incredible. The school has given us permission to act on behalf of the families.
Wonderful.
To get their grades, to do early intervention if it looks like in the beginning of the school year a course is just not working out and they either need tutoring or they need to rethink what level they're in or whether it's the right class. And then again, as I said, sort of planning out what are we going to be doing here in high school.
And that's so amazing because again, with some parents you might have language barriers. You might have parents that are single parents or working many jobs and they're not able to, for whatever reason, put that time into managing a student's career, a high school career, academic career. So to be able to have the ability to have someone who's looking at grades, you know, perhaps you can catch the kid before they fail out and you can change the course. There's no more excuse that no one saw, no one knew. That's wonderful. And I'm sure over time there will be statistics that show how beneficial that program was.
We're committed to that.
I
and then
think
just
that's
briefly,
wonderful.
Grade 13 is if you graduated and you're not sure where you're going,